The record, our next case is Matthew Smart.
Get him from the lobby, keep here.
Okay, thank you. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's comparatively though, yeah, he's only got half. Let me get. I'm not carrying these phone books around anymore. Yes. You're gonna tell me it's all future now. Yeah. Good morning. You're not representing, you don't have a sharing with your name. Okay, just want to make sure you weren't waiting on your mic.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Scotty Downey. I'm the chair of the Police Policy Committee. This is the time and place for you to offer the committee a mitigating statement. After the case is presented, you'll be given 5 minutes only to present a mitigating statement to the committee. At 5 minutes, I will stop you. We cannot ask you any questions and you can't ask us any questions. You're more than welcome to sit here while we discuss the case after you're done, or you can sit in the chair in the back. Either or, it's up to you. And then when we're done, you can exit out the side door. We'll let you know when that is. So the first thing will happen is Jennifer will present the case and then you'll be given an opportunity to provide your mitigating statement. And there is a clock also, so you can know when you're getting close to your time. Very good. Jennifer?
Thank you. Jennifer Lamario for the record. The case before you is that of Matthew Smart. The department opened a professional standards review after receiving information that Matthew Smart retired from the Reedsport Police Department on October 1st of 2022 as part of a settlement agreement. At the time of his separation, the Reedsport Police Department reported there was a pending investigation that sustained policy violations for improper supervision of an officer, inappropriate conduct, as well as engaging in or being present when an officer engaged in conduct that would violate the use of force and report preparation policies. The department's review determined Mr. Smart did violate the board's moral fitness standards for misconduct. Mr. Smart engaged in misconduct by harming the efficient operations of the Reedsport Police Department when he did not intervene as he witnessed or participated in one of his officers inappropriately and then justifiably using force on a citizen, making arrest without probable cause and giving an unlawful order, and ineffectively providing a Miranda warning. Mr. Smart, are you ready to provide your mitigation? Okay, go ahead.
Members of the board, thank you for granting me the opportunity to respond directly to the allegations presented in this matter. I do not take lightly the responsibility that comes with appearing before you, nor do I dismiss the seriousness of the claims that have been raised. What I ask you is simply to weigh the facts carefully, separate unsupported allegations from sustained evidence, and to measure the entire course of my career. Over the course of 28 years in law enforcement, I've worked in 2 different states. I worked in many aspects of law enforcement, from working many nights to a resource officer, to a field training officer, to a chief of police. I've dedicated my life to public service, raised a family while doing so, and today continue to serve the youth as a high school teacher. My record deserves fair consideration. The case against me is built on mischaracterized and selective interpretation of events. In July 6, 2020, incidents which has been cited repeatedly in the heart of this matter, subject to the case, created a roadway hazard, refused repeated lawful commands, and was clearly experiencing a mental health or drug-induced crisis. Minimal necessary force was used to control him and ensure safe transport to a hospital for evaluation. No excessive force was used to the arrest for the unlawful community caretaking exception applies. It is further alleged that I failed to intervene to properly report the use of force. Yet body-worn camera footage confirms that the subject threw himself to the ground. While I accept responsibility for administrative shortcomings in ensuring reports are filed exactly as policy outlined, this is a matter of paperwork, not misconduct, dishonesty, or abuse of authority. Beyond this incident, much of what has been presented is rooted in strained communication with the city manager. Time and time again, conversations were misinterpreted, misremembered, or misunderstood. Key evidence in such as videos or reports were withheld from me. At one point, the city manager in the council chambers leaned and whispered, "If you just retired, this will all go away." This is not accountability, this is coercion. The report also unfolds unrelated matters. Grants delayed during COVID, policy updates were in fact corrected and brought correct, and even the construction of an alleged impound yard that had never existed in the manner described. These administrative duties were inflated into allegations of misconduct, but do not rise to the level of moral fitness violations. The department has already found that there is no dishonesty or no misuse of authority. What remains is the assertion of misconduct, but misconduct by definition requires willful neglect of duty or intentional violation of law or policy. I contend that the record demonstrates neither. What it shows is the chief doing his best to lead a small department under immense strain during a period of national upheaval in policing, while contending with the inexperienced administrator who often obstructed rather than supported. I also ask that you look at the whole of my career, not the fractured lens of this report. I have spent decades serving communities, investigating crimes against children, monitoring officers, mentoring officers, securing millions in grants for public safety, and working every day to uphold the oath I swore. My life's work should not be erased or diminished. Contested allegations, selecting reporting, and the policies of the city administrator. In closing, I respectfully urge the board to find that this is an insufficient basis to sustain violation of moral fitness. To rule otherwise would not only mischaracterize my service, but it would set a dangerous precedent for administrative disagreements and miscommunications to weaponize into career-ending changes. I'm not guilty of dishonesty, misuse of authority, or misconduct. I am guilty of is dedicating my career, my life to public service. I ask that you allow this service to stand on its merits. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Looking for a consensus of the committee to adopt the record and return it to staff for additional information if that's needed. I'm getting thumbs up, which means people are wanting to adopt the record. Is there any discussion about that, or is there any concerns or objections? And online, can I get a thumbs up if you want to adopt the record? I think we're looking for a consensus. Okay, I believe we do have a consensus. No objections? Hearing none. We will open the discussion for aggravating and mitigating factors. Remember to state your name, identify any aggravating or mitigating factors.
Casey Conning for the record. I think it's mitigating that the in-person testimony is largely aligned with how I viewed this case as I reviewed it. I think that's mitigating. I think that the separation of performance-related issues and or violations of law at the time this were to occur are very distinct and separate in my opinion. So I do find the testimony and ownership of performance mitigating.
Probably for the record, reading the text as it is implies an abuse of use of force, so that an inappropriate use of force, unjustifiable. Watching the body cam, I think the response was more than appropriate in community caretaking, and I think they went way above and beyond to ensure that this person did not get injured or injure themselves. The implication of not filling out a use of force report, I think that's a policy issue within the department and doesn't come to a moral fitness violation. So I guess what I'm saying in summary, I can't find any aggravating things to bring up.
Thank you. Scotty Nine for the record, the same, when I read the report and then I expected to see something much different on the video. I believe the officer's description of this individual essentially, flinging himself out of the vehicle. This was a person in emotional distress for whatever reason, obviously. The independent investigator said the officers did not de-escalate the situation or attempt to. He's, in my mind, he's in a vehicle, a large vehicle who could stomp on the gas and run over some folks. He's already exhibited some very strange and violent behaviors against other folks. And so I was with you. They put a towel down or a blanket down when he was trying to hit his head on the ground. They put double cuffs on him when he was complaining about his handcuffs. They tried a bunch of different ways to get him in a vehicle. The reality is there's just no cute way to get someone into a back patrol car who doesn't want to get in. And so I just kept waiting to see where the abuse of the excessive force or the abuse was, and I just didn't see it. So I have a hard time finding misconduct. I think the other stuff, if the city manager thought he wasn't very good at his administrative parts of his job, I don't think that's really what this committee purpose is.
On the record, I would expand that it's mitigating that this is clearly a volatile call that these officers responded to. And as written in the misconduct allegation, it's making an arrest without probable cause. I don't know that that's accurate. I think they did have authority to make that scene safe, and at a minimum, they have reasonable suspicion of a crime. And whether or not they applied or talked about the crime, in the end, it was applied, and whether that court resolution, to me, at the time, it was lawful to try to make that scene safe based off of the conduct of the individual involved with throwing gasoline cans at waves parked and the belief that he recently assaulted another citizen. So I do kind of believe that this misconduct allegation, as written, is not accurate for this case based off the video.
Does anyone have any aggravating? We've heard mitigating. Does anyone have any aggravating issues they would like to bring up on this case? Okay, hearing none. Jennifer, would you want to recap?
Yes, thank you. Jennifer Mario for the record. The committee has found no aggravating circumstances in this case. Those mitigating circumstances are that Mr. Smart's in-person testimony took ownership of the performance issues, which the committee believes aligns with the review of the camera footage and the case itself. They believe there was an appropriate that it was appropriate after watching the body cam that this was a community caretaking action. The fact that the use of force report was not completed according to the reports is not a moral fitness violation. The officers, including Mr. Smart, tried many ways to get him into the vehicle. The video did not convince the members of the committee that there were violations of the use of force, as some of the reporting indicated. This was clearly a volatile call. Even if it's not accurate, the members believe it's not accurate, that there was no probable cause. At the very least, there was reasonable suspicion of a crime. And so therefore the actions were lawful based on that and the suspect's behavior up to that point.
Looking for a consensus that Jennifer has covered the factors. Get a thumbs up online. Thank you. Seems we do have a consensus. Now open discussion about moral fitness violation categories. The options are affirm, modify, or negate. And we would look for a motion on that.
Rob, for the record, I'd like to make a motion that we strike the misconduct as a true.
Negate.
Second that motion, Lawford.
And there's only one violation, so
We're voting on a motion to negate the moral fitness violations as presented. Chair Nani,
Aye.
Vice Chair Koenig.
Aye.
Committee Member Sarek.
Aye.
Committee Member Daniel.
Aye.
Committee Member Jovic.
Aye.
Committee Member Dresser.
Aye.
Committee Member Livingston. Aye. Committee Member Lofgren. Aye. And Committee Member Wood.
Aye.
Motion passed.
So that removes, we won't need any more discussion because that removes the moral fitness violations. You're free to go, Mr. Trump, or we'll be taking any action in this case. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Like, Dustin wants next. Is that, is that what I say? Abstain?
Recused, yeah.
Abstain, all right.
So do you want the script? Are you still gonna kind of call the?
I like this. I'm just not gonna, I should make him do it.
I'll get it wrong, but.
We need to keep vice chair. I promised him you would have to do it. It's true. I did always show up. I said, I do show up and I. Well, you always contribute to the conversation, which I appreciate. I do appreciate everyone contributing to the conversation. It's awkward when we're sitting here looking at each other. Great public members really are weighing in today.
Awkward silence.
It is so awkward. Can't handle it. I cannot handle it.
And the Kindle ones are the same thing, you guys are saying, like.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. My name is Scotty Downing. I'm the chair of the Police Policy Committee. This is the time and place for you to provide a mitigating statement to the Police Policy Committee. After Jennifer reviews your case, you'll be given 5 minutes and 5 minutes only to provide the mitigating statement. At the conclusion of your statement, we won't be able to ask you any questions and you can't ask us any questions. There will be a timer there so you can judge your how much time you have left, because I will stop you at 5 minutes. While we discuss the case, you're more than welcome to sit at the table or you can sit back by your attorney. It's totally your choice. And then after the conclusion, we'll have you exit out the side door. And just so you know, for the discussion of this, I have to recuse myself from this case. So I won't be discussing the case.
Thank you, Commissioner Downing. Jennifer Lavario for the record. Case before you is that of Dustin Juan. The department opened a professional standards review after receiving an F-28 criminal history reporting form from Dustin Juan stating he had been cited for driving under the influence of alcohol in Polk County on November 26th, 2023. The actual incident date was May 27th of 2023. Mr. Juan entered a not guilty plea and was ultimately acquitted of the charge on December 6th, 2024. On April 9th of 2024, Mr. Juan was terminated from the Salem Police Department after an internal investigation into his criminal conduct sustained policy violations, including personal conduct and conduct unbecoming of an officer, general conduct, obeying the law, and integrity. The department's review determined Mr. Juan did violate the board's moral fitness standards for misconduct. Mr. Juan engaged in misconduct while under the influence of alcohol, was involved in a golf cart incident that resulted in serious injury to another person. Mr. Juan dragged the injured unconscious person who fell from the golf cart several feet on the pavement. Mr. Juan failed to provide medical or other aid to the victim and left the scene. The totality of Mr. Juan's negligence in this incident threatened and or caused additional physical harm to the victim. Mr. Juan then drove his personal vehicle away from the scene, resulting in a citation for DUI, driving under the influence of intoxicants. Mr. Juan's conduct harmed the efficient operations of the Salem Police Department by bringing discredit to the agency and damaging the public's trust and the image of the police profession. This harm included unwanted media attention. The conduct occurred within his agency's jurisdiction, and Juan was identified during the incident as a Salem police officer. Mr. Juan, a sergeant and seasoned police officer at the time, was held to an even higher expectation of conduct, which he failed to live up to. This failure also damaged the agency's image related to leadership and credibility. Mr. Juan, are you prepared to start your statement?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
First of all, thank you for this opportunity. I've never made excuses for mistakes that I've made in my life. And I won't make any excuses now. I do believe some of the information that was gathered throughout the course of the investigation is conflicting. I spoke with, an Oregon State Police trooper during this investigation, and I was 100% honest with that individual. I didn't omit any information and I didn't lie about anything. I was completely transparent and honest during this investigation. As far as some of the facts that were stated, I know that there's conflicting information about whether or not I was driving the golf cart, and I was not. And I told the Oregon State Police trooper that at the time. I did assist Miss Cadillo in getting back into the golf cart, and then she went back to the residence, at which time I had spoken with some family members as I was leaving, and they advised me that they were going to take her to the doctor. I admitted to the Oregon State Police trooper at the time of the investigation that I did not realize the extent of her injuries. That was something that I didn't realize at the time of the incident. I also had no knowledge that law enforcement or that there was any type of investigation when I left the scene. I later learned that police had responded to the location, at which time I reached out to Oregon State Police to speak with the investigating trooper at that time. Again, I was completely honest with him about the events that occurred that evening. And while in hindsight, like evaluating this over the last 2 years, I realize and I understand that my actions of leaving were incorrect. I understand that the fact that it was known that I was a police officer and I left the location brought shame and discredit to not only my department, but the profession. And for that, I am sorry. Obviously, there's nothing I can do to go back in time, but I have reflected on that for quite some time and do have regrets about that decision to leave. I did not leave because I thought I was in trouble for anything. I simply left the location, and that was not the correct thing to do. So for that, I'm very sorry. I'm sorry again for the discredit that I brought to my agency. I've worked at that agency for almost 19 years at the time and really enjoyed my time there and enjoyed being a police officer. And I realized that because of those actions, it brought discredit to the agency and to the profession. And for that, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. We're gonna look for a consensus from the committee to adopt the record or return it to the staff if additional information is needed. If there is additional information needed, we can discuss that now. If the record is complete, we can get a consensus now. Well, I'm not voting. Okay, looks like we have a consensus to adopt the record. Any objections? Hearing none. Now open the case to discuss aggravating and mitigating factors. Remember to state your name and identify if your point is aggravating or mitigating.
Livingston for the record. My first point is aggravating. I really struggle with the leaving the scene regardless of the fact that family members are there, or even taking away the fact on if he was driving or not driving. That doesn't even, just the fact that he's was involved in the incident where someone was injured, and then it just seemed, it seems unreasonable to me that he wouldn't have a self-preservation reason for leaving the scene, that a normal police officer, whether on duty or off duty, would have stayed to ensure that the person got medical attention and that everything was okay, even if he wasn't driving and just a passenger in the vehicle when she fell out. It feels unreasonable that he would it just doesn't make sense to me that he left the scene.
I think to address for the record, aggravating also is the same thing just brought up there, the sound comes across as self-preservation, leaving the scene and the haste that he did. And then clearly the decision to operate his truck when based on everything that was presented from drinking that night, he was impaired to do so. So he's making a couple of really bad choices. And again, someone in his tenure should clearly know better.
Robert, for the record, I totally support Major Lewis. In fact, there's a lot of information, interviews, and body cam focusing on whether he was driving or not, which I think is immaterial. As these two have brought up, I think just being a participant in this, if someone who fell out and was injured, he may not have known the degree of injury. Okay, but nevertheless, he left the scene of an accident. That's the part I have that I'm struggling with. There was some confusion over the amount of alcohol consumed at the, I think it's Alibi bar or something like that. That, in my opinion, is minimal, the discrepancy, but there was a huge discrepancy in the amount of alcohol that was consumed at the house. So indications believe that there was some impairment, as you brought up, Member Dresser. And then so self-preservation, leaving the scene and driving away from such. All aggravating.
Livingston, for the record, too, I forgot to add, the one mitigating factor is, part of his testimony today he is saying he's sorry for and understands, recognize that those are a series of mistakes that he made on that day. So I do think that that's mitigating his testimony too.
Further discussion, aggravating or mitigating online, anyone?
So Mark Daniel, for the record, I wanted to say that his testimony today is certainly mitigating, that he accepts responsibility for his actions. However, also aggravating is I firmly believe that he had a duty to render aid and to remain on scene and do whatever he could to provide any type of first aid or stabilization of the situation until first responders could arrive, especially due to the age of the person who fell out of the golf cart and the potential, head injury, which became evident after she sought medical attention. So for those circumstances, I find that aggravating.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Good, Jennifer, when you get caught up, you can recap.
Jennifer Lavario for the record. The committee identified mitigating factors in the verbal mitigation that Mr. Juan provided today, where he did say he was sorry for the series of mistakes he made that day. And he did take some accountability in his verbal statement for his action. Aggravating, leaving the scene regardless of whether he was driving or not, regardless of whether the family members said what they said, it still was an unreasonable behavior to leave that scene. There was the members believed there was self-preservation involved in these actions. That's what came across from the totality of the actions that evening. The fact that he operated his truck, even with the information that conflicted about how much alcohol was consumed, was still an aggravating factor. There was a lot of focus in the interviews on whether he was driving or not, which for this particular case isn't as important as the fact that Mr. Juan left the scene because he had a duty to render aid and remain at the scene until the first responders could arrive, especially when there was a potential head injury involved.
looking for a consensus that Jennifer has covered the aggravating and mitigating factors identified. We have a consensus? Open the discussion about moral fitness violation. In this case, misconduct was identified as the moral fitness violation. So we'll open discussion of whether to affirm, modify, or negate. And we'll be looking for a motion.
Dahlgren, for the record, I vote to affirm.
Livingston in a second.
Right, we are voting on a motion to affirm the moral fitness violations as presented. Vice Chair Conning?
Aye.
Committee Member Sarek?
Aye.
Committee Member Daniel?
Aye.
Committee Member Jovic?
Aye.
Committee Member Dresser?
Aye.
Committee Member Livingston?
Aye.
Committee Member Lofgren?
Aye.
And Committee Member Wood?
Aye.
Motion passed.
So we'll now be looking for a motion to take action or take no action. If you make a recommendation or a motion to take no action, please include why no action is recommended. Just a reminder, 3 to 10 years is the. Oh, that's next. Got ahead of myself.
And when does that start?
I'll discuss that in the next. We have to take action or no action. Sorry, we're just voting to take
Kevin,
action
just
or
for the
no action.
record, I made the motion that we take action.
I got ahead of myself, sorry.
Conning, second.
Voting on a motion to take action. Vice Chair Conning?
Aye.
Committee Member Sarek?
Aye.
Committee Member Daniel?
Aye.
Member Jovic?
Aye.
Committee Member Dresser?
Aye.
Committee Member Livingston?
Aye.
Committee Member Lofgren? And Committee Member Wood?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay, now we'll call for a motion discussion regarding the amount of the ineligibility period. In this case, misconduct is 3 to 10 years, effective April 9th, 2024. You recommend a specific amount of ineligibility, please include your justification for that amount. We'll be looking for some discussion and a motion on the length of time, 3 to 10 years.
Conning, for the record, I'll start it off with considering the mitigation provided and the discussion surrounding this. I'm closer to the 3 to 5 year on this than the upper end. I'm looking for further discussion.
Mark Daniel, for the record, I am basing my recommendation and I guess motion on totality of the record as, you know, the mitigating circumstances certainly of today, but the totality of the circumstances of the event that night and afterwards, I would move for a 5-year suspension.
Kevin Dresser, for the record, I would second that.
All right, we are voting on a 5-year ineligibility period. Vice Chair Conning?
Aye.
Committee Member Sarek?
Aye.
Committee Member Daniel?
Aye.
Member Jovic?
Aye.
Committee Member Dresser?
Aye.
Committee Member Livingston?
Aye.
Committee Member Lofgren? And Committee Member Wood?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Commissioner one that's good use there. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
I understand I was able to remain. I believe my next client is.
Sure. Is everyone okay just to go right into the next one or you need a break? We're doing it. Jordan Williams. Oops. So hard not to. Thanks. Already had to correct me at all.
You're doing great.
Only my 40th time. I'm finally getting it. Good morning. My name is Scotty Downing. I'm the chair of the Police Policy Committee. This is the time and place for your opportunity to provide a mitigating statement to the Police Policy Committee. After Jennifer reviews your case, you'll be given 5 minutes and 5 minutes only to provide your mitigating statement. At the conclusion of your statement, we won't be able to ask you any questions and you can't ask us any questions. After you're done, you're more welcome to sit at the table while we discuss your case, or you can go back and sit by your attorney. It's totally your choice. And at the end, we'll just have you exit out the side door. Yes, sir. Okay. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Thank you, Chair Nowling. Jennifer Lavario for the record. Case before you now is that of Jordan Williams. The department opened a professional standards review after receipt of an F-28 criminal history reporting form from Jordan Williams stating he had been criminally cited for purchasing an out-of-state license, 2 counts, in Ada County, Idaho on September 27th of 2023. On February 5 of 2024, the department received an F4S personnel action separation form from the Ontario Police Department. Mr. William, sorry, my notes are not that great today. Reporting that Mr. Williams had separated, as part of an investigation, into the situation with the out-of-state licenses. Also, for being dishonest, in his conduct. Williams was terminated from the police department, Ontario Police Department, on January 31st of 2024. On July 25 of 2024, Williams pled guilty to buying or possessing the wrong class or type of license, a misdemeanor charge, and received a withheld judgment. The state of Oregon reviewed the case as well and determined there was insufficient evidence to support bringing a criminal charge against Mr. Williams. The department's review determined Mr. Williams did violate the board's moral fitness standards as follows. Dishonesty. Mr. Williams was intentionally dishonest with a reckless disregard for the truth when he purchased 2 resident licenses and tags in both Oregon and Idaho and provided a reason that did not support his actions. Williams justified his actions by saying he took advice from someone he shouldn't have and that he, quote, didn't think and just went into the application and hit purchase. For misconduct, Williams engaged in misconduct when he violated criminal law in Idaho and received a criminal disposition by pleading guilty to buying or possessing the wrong class or type of license. Mr. Williams, are you ready to start?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, thank you for your time. I first would like to address the fact I'm going to be reading for the bulk of my statement. I don't want me reading to take away from the genuine statement that I'm about to give. I prepared a typed statement due to the fact I'm incredibly nervous. This is an intense moment in my law enforcement career, and I have a tendency to ramble when I get nervous. But this statement was prepared by me and it's from my heart. I screwed up. I made a huge mistake. I'm ashamed of what happened, and I have no one else to blame but myself. And while I never had any malicious intent or ill will toward anyone or anything, at the end of the day, I should have known better. And I've accepted the consequences for my actions. I spent 6 years telling people when they would ask me questions about fish and game laws, explaining my understanding of the law, followed by advising them to talk to Fish and Game or an attorney to get a definite answer. And I failed to follow my own advice. As a lifelong hunter, and especially as a law enforcement officer, I know the importance of doing my due diligence when it comes into making sure I'm abiding by all laws, and I failed to do that. I was in an exciting new phase of my life with a big move to a new state and engagement. I took advice from someone that was not a Fish and Game officer or an attorney. I then made a stupid joke while getting to know new officers at a new department that anyone who truly knows me would not have taken seriously. I want to apologize not only to the Ontario Police Department, but the Pendleton Police Department, and Umatilla Tribal Police Department as well. As my actions not only damages the public image of law enforcement as a whole, but with working for those departments, it potentially damages their images as well. I have moved back to Eastern Oregon. I hope the board can find it in their hearts to allow me to keep my certifications and continue the career that I love. I can guarantee that this is an isolated event that will never happen again.
Thank you. We're looking for a consensus from the committee to adopt the record or return it to, return the case to staff for additional information. Last first, does anyone think they need additional information? You identified anything additional we would need? Hearing nothing, I'm looking for a consensus to adopt the record. Do you have a consensus? Any objections? Hearing none, we'll open the discussion for aggravating and mitigating factors. Remember to state your name and identify if your point is aggravating or mitigating.
Probably for the record. I'm gonna start with aggravating. I have a real problem with the statement that I've established residency in another state by having my mail sent to my girlfriend's house. When my knowledge of establishing residency requires a physical presence in that state. It's like the driver's license, you know, once you move to another state, you get the driver's license within a certain amount of time, and then you surrender it. So aggravating, I think there was knowledge we were getting a in-state resident hunting license. In the effort to save a lot of money. The difference I think that came out in a lot of the audio was that it was just between like $36 and $1,200 or something. And then I'm gonna flip over here and say it's a mitigating thing. The state of Oregon didn't press charges, and I think it's because he never acted on these 2 hunting licenses. So he got them, but I can't find any evidence that he acted on the hunting license. So I'm gonna present that as mitigating. Also as mitigating his presence today and acknowledging he's made a mistake.
I'll second those comments from Member Wood and to double down on his testimony today that it complete ownership of the situation and the fact that it was a mistake and the severity of mistakes that we've heard today. This is mitigating.
Kevin Dresser for the record, mitigating, and I don't have an exact count. Most letters of recommendation or support that I think I've seen in many of our cases. So that says a lot. In addition to his statement today also.
Anyone else aggravating, mitigating? Hearing none. Jennifer, you want to recap?
Chairman Jennifer Lavario for the record. I heard for mitigating from the committee that the state of Oregon not pressing charges along with no evidence of action being taken as a result is mitigating. Mr. Williams' presence today and his accountability for his actions, complete ownership of his mistakes, and the many letters of recommendation are all mitigating. For aggravating, sending mail, saying your residence is in another state by simply sending mail to their house and not having a physical presence there seemed to imply that there was knowledge that Mr. Williams had about the process, and by doing so, perhaps saving a great deal of money.
For a consensus that Jennifer has captured our aggravating and mitigating points. You have a consensus. We'll now open the discussion about the moral fitness violation categories. You can affirm, modify, or negate. There's two identified in this, which is dishonesty and misconduct. Open the discussion on that. Eventually, we'll be looking for a motion on that.
Vincent Fleck. Just under the dishonesty, piece of it, and then thinking about the case in its totality and everything that was kind of brought up. I struggle a little bit with how harsh the verbiage is on the reckless disregard for the truth. Intentionally dishonest with a reckless disregard of the truth. I just felt like that would seem harsh and abrasive for the totality of circumstances.
Yeah, Scotty and I, for the record, I'm in the same boat. There's enough gray area. There's enough, ambiguity in this case, where, you know, usually a lie, you know, when you see it or you hear it. And this one I've had a little bit more difficult time of saying, was this an actual lie? Is it all under the misconduct? Did you do something, just do something wrong intentionally, or did you have to lie to do something wrong? So they're kind of intertwined, but I'm with you. It's not as cut and dried, I don't think, as some of the others.
According to the record, I think by definition, there is dishonesty by clicking the series of things to obtain dual licenses and obtain the benefit. So I think we're splitting hairs. I think it probably comes down to more on the action side of this, whether or not it happened or not. By accepting that and as the investigation showed, by attempting to obtain and then clicking yes, I am a resident, that and knowingly doing that by definition is dishonest. Now, whether or not it rises to an egregious level of dishonesty, that may be up for debate.
Maybe that was better suited for further conversation as we get.
You're probably right. Further down the road, yes.
Sure.
Just Marie Atwood for the record, because we're dealing with a dishonesty allegation. I just want to remind the group of what the definition is that we operate on. Dishonesty can include any of the following things: untruthfulness, dishonesty by admission, dishonesty by omission, deception, misrepresentation, falsification, or reckless disregard for the truth. So if the committee believes that any of those things have occurred in this case, then that could sustain a finding.
So Rob, for the record, I think there was intention. And maybe this goes back to adding that there was some kind of testimony or evidence that you can't surrender your hunter's license, which I don't know if it's true or not. But I think there was incentive not to surrender, or at least call ODFW and say, I'm no longer a resident, because he got the coveted bighorn sheep tag, which I've told, I'm not a big game hunter, but I'm told that is extremely rare and fortunate to be able to pull that. So I think we need to leave the dishonesty and the intention, whether we pull on reckless disregard. Yeah, that's up for discussion.
Mark Daniel, for the
Yeah.
record,
Hold on one second, Mark. Thank you. I just want to make sure that we're not pulling in things that are not part of the record. I think the bighorn sheep being coveted, I don't know.
Correct.
Okay.
That would be correct. That's not in the record.
Okay, that's not in the record, so I think we probably can't necessarily,
It's not in the record.
about it being coveted, not,
I remember reading that because I didn't make that up on my own.
but is that an opinion or is that something that is, I mean, I just don't, I think we're getting into maybe some opinion that, I just want to make sure we're being appropriate of what information that we're actually considering. And you may very well be right. I don't know. I'm not a big game hunter, so.
Jennifer Barry for the record. The record does reflect the tag for the big horn sheep. However, the other portion of that deliberation may be the piece that is not. So we can say that, yes, this tag was for big horn sheep. Whether or not the opinion about that should be part of the record. I don't defer to you, Scotty. That part is not part of my record.
Okay, so I think we should leave that part out. That it's,
No one else remembers that in any of the audio recordings.
I don't specifically remember that. Like I said, it may have just not jumped off the page for me because I'm not a hunter, so.
I'm not a big game hunter.
Yeah, so
Jennifer Barr, the record, if the committee wanted me to go back and further review that, I'd be happy to do.
sounds like, Teresa.
Rob was correct. I don't think that's really important. What I was trying to do is show the intention of dishonesty, which I think, in my opinion, with taking that back out, I think it still stands.
I may be getting the two states, I think it's just, I thought it was just an Oregon deer tag. I didn't. But I was trying to look back through to make sure I wasn't wrong.
And I will say for me, that's not going to be, that's not gonna be
No,
a
I
factor
just-
that's going
trying
to sway me one way or another. So I don't need to have it part of the record, and if someone else does, we could potentially ask for that. You know,
I would add to the record that the issue for me is residency,
Yes.
in or out of state.
correct.
Regardless of what this tag may have been or how important the tag may be to individual hunters. It doesn't matter to me. It's residency or no residency.
I appreciate that. And so, and we're just trying to keep the declaration clean.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so where were we at?
Mark Daniel for the record.
Affirming my
Mark? Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm gonna go thinking that it's okay for me to go. So I believe that dishonesty does exist, especially based on the reading of the definition. Number one, because there's, in my mind, a definite manipulation of the system to try to acquire something that he had no right to. And I am not a big game hunter. I'm not even a hunter, period. But it is clear to me when people manipulate the system to seek a benefit that they have no right to. And I believe that this shows forth within everything that we've reviewed.
Our discussions, we affirm the dishonest.
Second.
Right, we are voting on a motion to affirm the moral fitness violations as presented. Chair Nani,
Aye.
Vice Chair Cotting.
Aye.
Committee Member Sarek.
Aye.
Committee Member Daniel,
Aye.
Rajovic,
Aye.
Committee Member Dresser,
Aye.
Committee Member Livingston. Aye. Committee Member Loughlin. Aye. And Committee Member Wood.
Aye.
Motion passed.
We're looking for a motion to take action or no action. If you recommend no action, include why no action is recommended. Looking for discussion and a motion. It's the time when we discuss and someone makes a motion.
Livingston for the record.
Thank you.
I say we take action.
Robert, for the record. Second.
Right, we are voting on a motion to take action. Chair Nani.
Aye.
Vice Chair Cotting.
Aye.
Committee Member Sarek.
Aye.
Committee Member Daniel,
Aye.
Committee Member Jovic,
Aye.
Committee Member Dresser.
Aye.
Committee Member Livingston.
Aye.
Committee Member Loughlin. And Committee Member Wood.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay, we're gonna have discussion now regarding the amount of ineligibility. This would be 3 years to lifetime. Because it does include dishonesty. There was an incorrect date in our material. the effective date would be 1/31 of 24. It would be a year and a half or so ago, be the effective date. Make sure that you include why the specific timeline recommended.
For the record, I will, looking at the totality of this case and in-person testimony and mitigation that Bill got brought, I am at the 3-year mark on this case.
But it's for the records.
I said mine. I will second that. If you need the motion.
Is it a motion? 3 years.
We are voting on a motion for a 3-year ineligibility period. Chair Nunley?
Aye.
Vice Chair Connie?
Aye.
Committee Member Sarek?
Aye.
Committee Member Daniel?
Aye.
Jovic?
Aye.
Committee Member Dresser?
Aye.
Committee Member Livingston?
Aye.
Committee Member Lofgren? And Committee Member Wood?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you. We're moving on to proposed rule change. Whichever you want to do, you can. What? He's good for this. He's good for this, Ron. 100%. It didn't matter. I'm ready. Thank you.
All right, Jennifer Howell for the record, thank you. Chair Downing, members of the committee. This is an administrative rule change for Oregon Administrative Rule 259-006-0010. This rule was adopted in 2020 to establish the Applicant Review Committee. The rule outlines the purpose and membership of the committee, which is more commonly known by the abbreviation ARC or ARC. The Applicant Review Committee was specifically designed to review professional standards cases for individuals who have just been hired but have criminal dispositions that occurred before they were ever employed in public safety. This committee generally meets on a monthly basis, and through this administrative rule and Oregon Administrative Rule 259-008-0290, the board delegated the authority to deny training and certification for these specific types of cases to the Applicant Review Committee. This means that the committee's vote to take no action or to take action to deny does not require any subsequent approval by the board. The combination of the delegated authority and the meeting frequency ensures that the cases are reviewed in a timely manner and that new hires can proceed to their basic training without significant delays once the process has been completed. Since 2023, DPSST has been facilitating a work group to review the current moral fitness rules and standards. This included discussion related to the Applicant Review Committee membership and the appointment criteria. After reviewing the current membership requirements, the work group recommended 3 changes related to the ARC member criteria. On page 2 of your memo, in section 2, the first recommendation was to change the board member position from a public member to any member of the board. Changing the designation from the public member to any member does not preclude or prevent a public member of the board or one of the policy committees from serving on the committee. It just removes the requirement that the board member be the public member. In section 3, the second recommendation was to delete subsection B to remove the prior policy committee experience requirement. This is shown as strike through text. And while this requirement was initially intended to ensure that ARC members had experience reviewing professional standards cases and familiarity with committee processes, the requirement has proven to be more restrictive than necessary. Also in section 3, the third recommendation was to delete subsection E to remove the language regarding the option to vacate a policy committee member position. At the time the committee was established and the rules were adopted, this was included with the intention to recognize that members may find it challenging or overburdensome to serve on both committees. at the same time. But no one has exercised this option and it has been determined to just be confusing and unnecessary. You will also see revisions in section 3A and the renumbered B. These include amendments to help clarify the nomination and appointment process to support implementation of the recommended changes. Process-wise, DPSST shared these rule changes with the applicant review committee and the moral fitness work group back in November and December of 2024. And they supported moving forward with those changes. Timing-wise, the rule hasn't come before the committee before because we took pause on all of our moral fitness work group during the legislative session. So now that session's over, we're back to working on those processes. We presented these rules to the Telecommunications Policy Committee earlier this month. They noted that changing the requirement that the board representative be a public member could result in a period when there are no public members on the ARC. And that's a possibility. When the rule was presented to the Corrections Policy Committee, I added to that recognition that, as written, the change would also allow for any board member to become an ARC member. So the board includes both public members, criminal justice representatives, fire representatives, and private security representatives. But the ARC only reviews criminal justice professional standards cases. CPC did not have any concerns related to public members or board members, but CPC did recommend adding some clarifying language related to the term expirations. Under the current interpretation of the rules and the bylaws, appointed ARC members can complete their ARC term, even if their term on the board or the policy committee expires before their ARC term expires. So if you expired in October of this year, but you were serving on the ARC and that year wouldn't end until May of next year, you would still be able to continue on the ARC committee. So to address the CPC recommendation, DPSST would add 2 statements to section 3. Those statements would be along the lines of, first, to be eligible for nomination to the applicant review committee, the nominee must be a current member on the board or the policy committee making the nomination. The second statement that would be, if an appointed member's term on the board or policy committee expires before their term on the applicant review committee, the member may continue to serve the full duration of their current term on the applicant review committee. Today, the Police Policy Committee's action items are shown on page 3 of the memo. The first action item asks for consensus on the accuracy of the fiscal impact statements to the rule change. To summarize those briefly, DPSST did not find any fiscal impacts for this rule change. Your second action item requires motion, second, and vote, and that's to recommend that the board approve these rules as permanent rules. If you agree with the CPC recommended changes as presented in the discussion today, then I would just ask that you amend the motion to include the as amended, the rules presented as amended by our discussion and their recommendation. And I'm so happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
Just cutting down for the record, as there, and maybe you said it there, it's been a difficulty getting a public member on here. Is that the gist of it? I mean, it's just to get someone from the board.
Great. Thank you for the question, Jennifer Howell, for the record. So that is, it's in part to recognize that when it was established, there was only one public member on the board at that time. So since then, it's been expanded to 3 public members. So when the applicant review committee was established, they really wanted to make that connection to the board since the board is delegating authority. And they wanted to follow the same processes that were in place for the board and the policy committees to ensure a public member. Now, what we've found in practice all of these years is that there are frequently public members from the policy committees who are volunteering and being nominated and appointed to the policy committee, to the applicant review committee. So it seems to be a natural process that we don't necessarily have to elevate the public member position from the board, and then we would be opening it up to any member to serve. The other part of that challenge to having the public member available to serve from the board to the applicant review committee is it's not really part of the recruitment for the public member on the board. So it's almost as inviting to them to the table and then saying, oh, and by the way, we need you to do all of these other things. So it was in the recommendation to remove the public member as the board is to help reflect that as well.
Okay, thank you.
The
Appreciate
additional
that.
responsibility. Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns before we? So we're looking for a consensus to affirm. Just on the fiscal impact statement. Looks like we have consensus. Any objections? Noted. And then we need a motion for a vote to recommend. Yes, we didn't do any other changes, so we recommend it as it was presented.
If you.
How do you want to say
so-
it? That's what I'm saying.
Because we were entertaining the corrections policy recommendation to add that additional clarifying language about serving out term limits. If you are comfortable with that recommendation, then if you would just approve as amended by the corrections policy committee, then that would probably be a clear enough record.
I will make that motion.
I will second that.
All right, we are voting on a motion to recommend the board approve filing the proposed rule changes with the amendments from CPC for OAR 259-006-0010 as a permanent rule. Chair Nowman.
Aye.
Vice Chair Collins.
Aye.
Committee Member Sarah.
Aye.
Committee Member Daniel.
Aye.
Committee Member Jordan.
Aye.
Committee Member Dresser.
Aye.
Committee Member Livingston.
Aye.
Committee Member Lofgren.
Aye.
And Committee Member Wood. Motion passed.
Next item is another proposed rule change. OAR 259-008-0085.
Thank you. Jennifer Howell for the record, Chair Nowning, members of the committee. DPSST identified a need to add more clarity to the rules and processes that guide how and when a student is required to make up missed training. DPSST refers to this process as a form of remediation. So throughout the discussion, you may hear me say remediation or make up this training interchangeably. Per rule, all students are required to complete the basic training course and meet the minimum standards for certification. This includes completing the course in its entirety and meeting the student performance measures such as testing and skills demonstration. However, it's important to recognize that there are circumstances that result in student absences that can range from things like court appearances to illnesses to injuries. There are also circumstances when DPSST has to make a change to the schedule, and that schedule adjustment creates a missed training that has to be made up as well. Over time, DPSST noted differing interpretations of the rule language that currently exists around 10% absence. This resulted in inconsistent outcomes related to absences, course schedule modifications, and remediating that missed training. After reviewing the rule history and current practices to determine how to clarify the rule, moving forward, DPSST identified the following key points. All missed training must be remediated. This includes absences and training schedule modifications that result in missed training. Some remediation can be completed in less time than the original course schedule, particularly when it's delivered in a one-on-one situation. So it may take 3 hours to deliver one-on-one, where it takes 4 or 5 hours to deliver to a classroom of 20 to 40. So, and there are still topics and skills that will require an hour for hour makeup, and the DPSST staff would be able to coordinate that with the students. The essential requirement is that the public safety officer receives the full breadth of training content included in the board-approved course. Staff do not have discretion on determining whether or not missed instruction requires remediation. It must all be completed. The rule changes are shown on page 2 and 3 of the memo. And as you can see, there's a fairly extensive expansion of what currently exists in the rule. Again, this is meant to add clarity and codify current policies for a consistent application of the rule in the future. I want to note that sections 20 and the subsections 20A and 20B apply to all students, meaning the DPSST Academy students and the DOC Basic Corrections students. But when you get to that 20 subsection C, we're adding the processes that apply to DPSST Academy students. Because DOC is delivering their basic corrections class to their employees, they retain discretion on how they're going to do that makeup process as long as they're conforming with parts A and B. Before I move on to the fiscal impact statements, I wanted to pause to see if there were any questions on the proposed rule language. The fiscal impact for these rule changes is indeterminate. There's always been a fiscal impact to DPSST and to the employing agency when there's a need to make up this training. The processes that are codified in this rule are not expected to have an effect on those costs that are associated with making up this training, but the clarifications to the rule may result in more frequent makeup training as they're implemented at the beginning. And then it will just be a standard process. The fiscal impacts identified several factors, and to summarize, those would include things like staff time to coordinate and deliver makeup training, whether training can be made up while at the academy, or whether a student has to make that training up after academy officially ends, and they either have to come back to the academy or DPSST will go out to their geographic location. And DPSST did recently implement a policy that would allow that makeup training to occur at a home agency or as nearby as possible. The memo also includes a list of entities that may be affected by the fiscal impacts. We're supposed to identify all state agencies. Identifying all state agencies would include Oregon State Police, Department of Corrections, Oregon Liquor and Cannabis Commission, the Board of Parole and Post-Prison Supervision, Department of Justice, and Oregon Judicial Departments. In recognizing cities and counties, it would be police departments, sheriff's offices, dispatch centers, and community corrections agencies. We would also recognize tribal governments with public safety officers who are certified by DPSST, Oregon Health Sciences University, and public universities with police departments. But there were no fiscal or economic impacts identified for members of the public, and no small businesses identified as subject to the rule. Those are all the prepared remarks. Happy to answer any questions, and it's basically the same action items, the consensus on fiscal or any additional information to add to fiscal, and then motion to approve to the board.
Rob Wood for the record, Jennifer, this takes out any discretion and makes it more concrete, correct?
It is intended to remove the discretion on whether or not it can be completed. There is still discretion on how it gets completed. So whether we're doing it here at the academy, whether we're engaging with the student after academy, if it's a long-term remediation where perhaps they missed a large chunk, there's coordination involved with the employing agency to determine whether they need to come back to a different academy, whether they're starting over or starting just to finish up those last 4 weeks, those types of things. So there is still discretion.
But, okay, so I want to make sure I understand.
Sure.
The discretion is time-based. Let's say they missed a 4-hour block of one section of vehicle stops. Is that that's 4 hours they need to make up?
They have to make up the missed training content. So the learning outcomes, the objectives, those types of things, and the DPSST training staff. And in the example that you gave, I just don't have the expertise to know whether that's an hour for hour makeup, because that's a skill versus something that could be done in a more consolidated amount of time. So we're not always looking for hour to hour match, but we're looking to ensure that all of the training gets introduced to the student.
Okay. So as a trainer, I have some background and experience with this. Let's take firearms, for example. There's 12 sessions and we have baby steps at the beginning. And if they miss session 3, but test through that in session 6, do they still need to go back and I'm seeing a fiscal impact here. That's why I'm bringing this up. So if they have shown proficiency of what was covered in session 3, through a skills assessment in session 6. Is that, or are we now saying you still need to make up the content in session 3? And I can take this on vehicle stops, I can take this on use of force, EBOC. So,
So I'm Jennifer Howell for the record. Unfortunately, I don't have the training expertise to answer it to that level of like, for those specific skills classes, how the training staff are going to handle that. Other than this, the answer of, whenever possible, their first goal has always been to take care of that student while they're here on campus so that we don't have to have that larger fiscal impact. So there may be a small front end fiscal impact of overtime to make sure that that student gets through the process before they're released and sent back to their home agency. But that then prevents them from having to be coordinated for additional training at a later time. I just can't answer to the specific individual classes on which ones are going to require an hour for hour, which ones are going to, which segments that are linear segments would require you to go back and finish 3 before you can finish 6 and that type of thing.
right.
Yeah.
Can I,
Of course.
thank you. This is Marie Atwood for the record. So hopefully this is at least a little bit instructive. So my understanding of how this will play out is, like you mentioned before, that it is much more content-based rather than skills assessment based, because not only do we have specific areas of content that are by rule of statute required to be delivered, we also do have the ORS and OAR that we have an approximately 640-hour program, right, in basic police, for example. So the overall rule will be that the curriculum must be delivered, not just that they have shown their skills are adequate for that phase of their training program. Because, for example, as Jennifer noted, there are certain aspects of the training, like classroom hours, right? You may have a 4-hour block for one particular topic, but the remediation might only take a student 2 hours to get through the content. So we don't want to tie it to hour for hour, but the content itself must be delivered at some point in time in order for it to be considered remediated. So I think in the instance of firearms or vehicle stops, they probably would need to go make up that class. But as was already noted, we would make every effort to do that while they are still here, to not extend the time that they're spending at academy, make them return to academy if at all possible. As an additional note, as a general agency update, we are moving toward learning management system that was granted to us in this last legislative session, funding for that, which should help offset some of the inconveniences, if not fiscal costs, to having a requirement for students to come back in person if there's any way that we can develop a curriculum that can be delivered digitally. So hopefully those are at least a little bit of information.
Thank you for that.
I think for the record, Member Wood has a lot more experience in the actual hands-on training here. But when I read the struck language and then the proposed new language, I think in actuality, it's going to be a very, very similar fiscal. This is just providing more detail to how and what the latitude is for the agency to determine where the trainees training and how it's going to be made up. So I can see where they landed at a 0 fiscal change on this.
Any more discussion? Looking for first a consensus just on to amend or affirm the fiscal impact statements prepared. Affirm, would be any amendments? Looks like we do have a consensus. And we're looking for a vote. Say
Recommend approval of permanent rules to the board.
I will make that motion.
Not second.
Right, we are voting on a motion to recommend the board approve filing the proposed rule changes to OAR 259-008-0085, section 20 as a permanent rule. Chair Nemec?
Aye.
Vice Chair Connie.
Aye.
Committee Member Sarah.
Aye.
Committee Member Daniel.
Aye.
Committee Member Jovic.
Aye.
Committee Member Dresser.
Aye.
Committee Member Livingston.
Aye.
Committee Member Lofgren. And Committee Member Wood. Motion passed.
Next item is applicant review committee nomination. I think there's only a few folks who are qualified, and prior to the meeting, I think Kevin Dresser had expressed interest in continuing. Once his term was up, he could do another term. So if we can certainly have a discussion, if someone else has a burning desire to be on the applicant review committee. If not, I would very gladly nominate Kevin Dresser for that position. So we have a nomination in a second.
We are voting on a motion to nominate Kevin Dresser to the applicant review committee. Chair Nunn.
Aye.
Vice Chair Connie. Aye. Committee Member Sarek.
Aye.
Committee Member Daniel.
Aye.
Committee Member Jovic.
Aye.
Committee Member Dresser.
Aye.
Committee Member Livingston. Aye. Committee Member Lofgren. And Committee Member Wood.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Congratulations. We did.
Tough election.
So next item is agency updates.
Yeah, hi, everyone. Marie Edward for the record. So, Director Castle, and Deputy Director McAlpine are both at FLETC this week in Georgia, I believe. So neither of them are here for the policy committee. Otherwise, they both would be here as they usually are. That leaves me to provide agency updates, and considering how much effort everyone's put into today's set of cases, the 3 ginormous volumes of books that are sitting in front of everybody, I'm going to keep this short and sweet. 4 volumes. My apologies.
It matters.
Yes, it does. So yeah, I just want to tell everyone, thank you for being here. Thank you for your thoughtful consideration and all of the work and effort you put into being here every time. And to giving each of these cases a really close, critical look. We had every single person who was on today's docket came to speak, and you all listened with great attentiveness, and we do appreciate that. I also want to thank my team for all the work that they put into getting these materials prepared and delivered to you in a timely manner. There are a ton of cases on every single person's caseload at a given time. And nevertheless, they are able to put these things together for you to consider thoughtfully at our committee and board hearings. I want to introduce a new team member. This is Ben Hamilton. He is, as he introduced himself earlier, going to be the new manager of our criminal justice certification program. So he will be overseeing the team that does all the behind the scenes work and getting us prepared for these meetings. Otherwise, I don't have a ton in terms of agency updates. Like I mentioned just a moment ago, we did get some money during this past legislative session to fund a learning management system. The procurement and implementation of that are going to take a really long time, but it will help us substantially in how and when and where we deliver our curriculum to our constituents. We will hopefully have a really, really robust statewide impact, including things like regional trainings that oftentimes agencies just can't afford the amount of resources lost to send people to DPSST for advanced training. So we're gonna keep you updated with kind of benchmarks that occur for our learning management system implementation. We are also in the process of implementing a new case management system, which can and will impact how you receive the information that you get for our committee meetings and board meetings. It will likely impact how complaints are received. Our public facing portals online should all be a part of the implementation of that. That said, it's very early days. Acadis is the software company we're working through. They also are the company that does our training division software here. So we're familiar with them, and they're helping us iron out all of the odds and ends before we kind of go live with our new case management system. So we'll keep you updated on that as well. Otherwise, I don't think I have a ton in the way of agency updates. If there's anything for the good of the order, we do have some. Juan, were you able to get some lunch cards? Okay, so with our last 22 minutes, if anybody wants lunch in the cafeteria, we got that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next, please, but you're not going anywhere. It's okay. We're under control, she's sprinting out. Next policy committee is November 20th at 10 a.m. You're adjourned.
Thank you very much.
Now.